Are you all ready, my dears? I'm afraid that I don't have a microphone and that there is guitar playing. So I will try to to put on my loud voice, which I'm not sure if I have one, but anyways, what's that? Thank you for your presence. In his book, Adult Faith, Growing in Wisdom and Understanding, Diarmuid O'Murchu, whose name I have no idea how to pronounce, writes that Carl Jung had suggested that the appropriation of genuine adult faith very much belonged to the midlife stage, sometime between 35 and 55, often consequential on a psychological breakdown of one type or another. To embrace the new, a shedding of the old had to take place, and that frequently seemed to require a life crisis or transition experience, leading to a more reflective review of life's meaning itself. Before going any further, I would like to define the word faith as the combination of hope and vulnerability, that is, as empowering interdependence. O'Murchu writes, in Jungian psychology, it is named as a process of individuation, an evolving awareness of my interconnectedness, not just with other people, but with every organism that constitutes the web of life. It is a process that begins with dependence, evolves to independence, and culminates in interdependence. These could be renamed as me only, me over against others, and me with others. The first step upon this path is learning to abandon our predilection for results, especially immediate results, our favorite kind. We must let go of our desires for markers and get used to the disquieting sensation that comes with not quite knowing where our next step will take us. To quote the book of Isaiah, I will lead the blind by ways they have not known. Along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. I will turn the darkness into light before them and make the rough places smooth. These are the things I will do. I will not forsake them. The transition experience is inevitably fraught with uncertainty. It is a moving from one place to another, leaving this relative safety of the known for the disquieting murkiness of the unknown. Professor Snape will be our teacher. He was the one who could not be grasped, who moved like a shadow, indeed like a thief in the night. Again and again, he was not what was expected. He was like a road that led to the correct destination without any signs. In the end, he turned darkness into light, that of others and his own as well. He became the embodiment of the empowered, interdependent adult, a faithful person, a man who transcended polarities. We cannot come to know love, universal interconnectedness, unless we learn to trust. And trust is acquired when faith is maintained despite adverse conditions. I dare say that Professor Snape was often like an overcast sky, an impending storm, both from within and without. In other words, it is impossible to love, truly love, unless we learn to do so when love seems far away or even altogether absent, because patience and love go hand in hand. Professor Snape's authentic nature did not become visible until the 7th Potter novel, and even then it was veiled. Harry did not know that the silver doe, shining like a beacon in the gloom, was Snape's Patronus, and neither did he know that Snape, as he lay dying, was and had always been at his service. Professor Snape himself learned the same lesson. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. He learned to accept his ignorance. He devoted himself to an apparently lost cause. He strove relentlessly without seeing evident results, and because of this, he ultimately saw reality itself. I am reminded of a passage in Genesis. "No, please," said Jacob, "if I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably, please accept the present that has brought to you. For God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need." And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. Professor Snape did find favor in Harry's eyes. The boy not only took what Snape proffered without argument, despite Harry's earlier promise that he would seek vengeance upon encountering his former potions master, but he rewarded the agonizing man by acquiescing to his haltingly voiced request. To quote the first two verses of Psalm 17, "Hear, O Lord, my righteous plea, listen to my cry. Give ear to my prayer, it does not arise from deceitful lips. May my vindication come from you. May your eyes see what is right." During his last moments, Professor Snape saw the image of God in Harry, and he also mystically perceived the eternal source of love that bestows life upon mankind. When he spoke to Harry, there was no deceit upon his lips. And consequently, he would soon be vindicated by the one whose eyes had seen what was right. "Severus Snape was not yours," Harry told Voldemort. It might be said that Severus Snape was born when the illusion of who he had been died at Harry's feet. He was truly delivered. Professor Snape is an illustration of the mystery of faith, faith which is perfected in weakness and uncertainty. This lesson is the foundation of authentic being. We cannot have any sort of awareness unless we are taught to bow before the mystery of the other, and the other with a capital O. Snape and Harry's final encounter resembles what Jung called active imagination. It is, in M.L. von Franz's words, a certain way of meditating imaginatively by which one may deliberately enter into contact with the unconscious and make a conscious connection with psychic phenomena. While it is in a sense comparable to Eastern forms of meditation, such as the technique of Zen Buddhism, it is fundamentally different in that the meditator remains completely devoid of any conscientious goal or program. I think this could be seen in the way that Snape's memories poured from him like blood in a flow of images and possibilities, again similar to a birth experience. Snape and Harry are gazing at each other, two individuals separated by physicality, yet also linked together, transcending matter and elevating matter, forming a union that would soon yield profound and isolated identity-shattering revelations. We know that Dumbledore promised Snape that he would not divulge the reason why Snape had sworn to protect Harry. I shall, however, suggest that the true reason Harry and everyone else in the Potter novels has been kept in the dark about Snape's allegiance and motives is spiritual in nature. Professor Snape's role is metaphysical. His literary function is to teach us about the meaning of faith and thus transcendental love. Father Alexander Mann wrote that Christ did not declare even the mystery of his own ministry, but rather asked, "Who do people say that I am? Who do you say that I am?" He always anticipated an active response from people in order that they should find their own answer. Their answer would enlighten them as to their own identity. The parameters we assign to our fellow human beings tend to reflect how we in fact view ourself, with a capital S. The actual processes of individuation, the conscious coming to terms with one's inner center, psychic nucleus or self, generally begins with a wounding of the personality and the suffering that accompanies it, von Franz tells us. This initial shock amounts to a sort of call. Then one must begin the process by swallowing all sorts of bitter truths. In Brennan Manning's words, pain is the crucible, a vessel used to melt substances, that require a high degree of heat, in which one is made tender, in which one is refined. The word crucible also originally meant night lamp. What it means to be human is to be united to our fellows. It is to be many and yet one. It is to defer to the other, who is in fact a part of us. If Snape had once been unwilling to allow Dumbledore to reveal the best of him, it was because he could not then face the truth about the step he had taken, a step toward and not away from those whom he could not bear to think of as brethren, that is, a part of him. In Lily's case, his sacrifice implied an acceptance of hers, and by implication, an acceptance of her love for James and Harry, a love stronger than death. If we sometimes, perhaps even often, have difficulty discerning the fictions in our life story, how can we claim to know better than others what is true or false about them? The moment the admission is made that there is a great deal we simply do not know, we become flesh and blood and draw our first breath. This rebirth occurs again and again throughout our life, each time infusing us with an increased sense of reality. To be real means one thing: to love. Professor Snape could only be worthy of trust if he loved Harry. Otherwise, it would mean he did not truly love Lily, which would mean that Snape was untrustworthy and therefore that Voldemort was correct in his assessment of the value of trust. It is worthless. But without trust, there is no such thing as love. Snape's dying words were, "Look at me." He could have been saying, "Remember me." This is how J.K. Rowling describes the powerful memory, the active imagining. The night reached such a depth of velvety blackness that Harry might have been suspended in limbo between disapparition and apparition. He had just held up a hand in front of his face to see whether he could make out his fingers when it happened. A bright silver light appeared right ahead of him, moving through the trees. Whatever the source, it was moving soundlessly. The light seemed simply to drift towards him. During his final moments, Snape let go of his disguises and showed himself to Harry as he truly was, just like he did when he guided Harry beyond the velvety blackness that had suspended the Gryffindor in limbo between disapparition and apparition. Von Franz writes of a woman's meditation during which the self appeared as a deer. It said to the ego, "They call me the connecting animal because I connect people, animals, and even stones with one another if I enter them. I am your fate of the objective I. When I appear, I redeem you from the meaninglessness hazards of life. The fire burning inside me burns in the whole of nature. If a man loses it, he becomes egocentric, lonely, disoriented, and weak.